My name is Sarah Coleman, and I would like to share with you a personal story that has changed my life forever. Honestly, it was hard to find the right words to tell this story, but it was such an important story that I couldn't keep it to myself. On April 3rd, 2023, I had a completely re-identified experience of my life. For 12 minutes, I was dying. There was no heartbeat or breathing. But for those 12 minutes, I didn't fall into unconsciousness. I went somewhere. It was such a practical and deep place, so I'm still trying to deal with that experience. What I experienced wasn't just for me. It was a message for all of us. Let me give you a little background. I've been a nurse in the ER for over 10 years. My life has always been rooted in science, facts, and specific things. I've seen both the moments that show humanity best and the worst moments. They were moments of despair and unbelievable moments of recovery. If someone had told me a year ago that I would die and come back to life and share the message that Jesus had given me, I would have thought that person was crazy. But life has a way of turning everything we think we know upside down. That day started like any other day. After watching my son's soccer game and spending an anxious night, I had a lot of thoughts in my head. I decided to go jogging early in the morning to cool my head. The neighborhood was quiet in the silence of dawn. The light fog was floating in the air, and I felt fresh and refreshing. I looked at the clock. Everything felt so ordinary. And then it happened. I don't remember the shock, but what I found out later was that a driver was hitting me when I was crossing the street. For a moment, I was alive and healthy. The next moment, everything was dark. That's what I thought. I expected a dark silence, but instead, I was in a place where I couldn't explain. The first thing that caught my eye was the light. It was different from the artificial light we know, such as sunlight. It was pure, warm, and alive. The light didn't shine around me. It filled me with an inexplicable peace. The peace I was talking about was without fear, pain, or worry. Everything that was pressing me melted away. It felt like I was finally home. When I was standing there trying to understand what was happening, I saw colors. They were bright, dazzling, and colors I'd never seen before. Even the air felt like it was spreading with energy and music. That melody spread through me. This is just the beginning of what I've experienced, and I believe this is a message that must be shared. Music didn't come from one direction. It surrounded me and flowed in all directions at the same time. It was music I'd never heard before. It was as if joy and love had transformed into sound. And I saw someone approaching me. It was my father. My father passed away when I was a teenager, but he was there. He looked young and healthy, as if he were at the peak of his life. I recognized him right away. His smile was just as I remembered it, but there was a feeling of heaven. It was a shining, pure, and inexplicable feeling. "Love," he said. His voice was full of love and warmth. "Don't be afraid. He is waiting for you." Before I asked him what he meant, he reached out and touched my hand. At that moment, I felt a deep connection with him. It was as if all the questions I wanted to ask him were answered without a word. It was an overwhelming yet comforting experience. "There is something you need to see," he said. Suddenly, the light around me became brighter and more focused. And then I saw him. Jesus. I am sure that I am not exaggerating when I say that it is impossible to describe Jesus. Jesus was different from any image or description I have seen. His existence was human and sacred. He was radiating love and power that I could not understand. His eyes contained everything: compassion, wisdom, and who I was, and what I should become. I did not kneel in fear, but in humility before his presence. Jesus reached out and put his hand on my shoulder. "Love," he said. His voice was soft and powerful. "There is something you need to see. Before I come back, my people need to know." And he showed me 4 incidents. Each incident was more extraordinary and serious than the previous one. The first incident was called the Great Chaos. I saw people all over the world completely immersed in their devices, cell phones, screens, and technology. They did not care about anything important. They were just into meaningless things. Their families were sitting together, but they did not talk. Their friends paid more attention to social media likes than to each other. Even the people they believed in got caught up in the noise and lost what was truly important. Jesus looked at me and said, "This is the way of the enemy. He disturbs people, makes them focus on meaningless things, and makes them not see what is truly important. What I saw next was just the beginning of what he showed me. The message he gave me is something I cannot keep to myself. People are so caught up in temporary things that they forget eternal things. Jesus said, "Wake up my people and make them focus on their hearts and thoughts again." The second incident was the great chaos. I saw people captivated by the dazzling signs and miracles of the world. Beautiful lights danced across the sky, and extraordinary beauty and charisma began to speak to people. They talked about peace, unification, and opening up, but their words were full of deception. Even the strong believers were led to their promises. "They are not mine." Jesus warned them. "They will mix truth and falsehood and seduce many people. Tell my people to keep their word as their root. My word is the foundation that does not waver." The third incident was the awakening. It gave me hope. I saw the waves of light spread across the world. People turned to God, and their families prayed with them. Communities revived with worship and repentance. Miracles happened. Healing, salvation, and life changed in an instant. But this awakening was followed by the great chaos. The believers were mocked and attacked, and even killed for their faith. Nevertheless, their joy did not waver. "My spirit will move strongly in these days," said Jesus. "But the price for following me will be great. I will give them the kingdom, and the reward will be eternal." The fourth and final incident was the Reformation. The sky split open, and he appeared. He came with the angels of heaven and earth. The whole world stopped. All knees bowed, and all tongues confessed that Jesus was the Lord. For some, it was a moment of honor and worship. For others, it was a moment of fear. It was the most beautiful and powerful moment I have ever seen. This is what they were waiting for. Jesus said, "I will come soon. Tell them to be ready." No one knows the day or the time. As the vision began to disappear, I was still kneeling before Jesus. I was overwhelmed by the weight of what I saw, and his eyes never wavered. It was as if all creation had stopped to hear his words. His words were engraved in my heart. "Live," he said, "the world is turning into an unprecedented time. You have seen what is coming, but remember this. I am always with you, and I am with my people. My love will not change, and my promise will not be broken. Even in hardship and confusion, those who trust me will find peace that cannot be understood." I said, "I am glad she is back. We have found her." I could hardly move or speak, but the tears that flowed down my face were not because of pain. It was tears from overwhelming gratitude for what I had just experienced. I wanted to tell them, but I could not speak. Instead, I tried to hold the hands of one of the first responders as tightly as possible and tell them what I could not express in words with just that gesture. The next few days were confusing, but physically and emotionally, my recovery was like a miracle. Even though I was hit by a car, my injury was far less serious than anyone expected. Broken ribs, bruises, and brain damage. But there was no brain hemorrhage, no broken bones, and no damage to my spine. The doctors told me that they could not believe and explain my quick recovery. But I knew the truth. In the beginning, when I was lying in the hospital bed, I repeated what I had seen and heard. The voice of the Father, the presence of Jesus Christ, and the visions of the upcoming events. Each moment was deeply engraved in my heart, and I felt an unwavering clarity. This was not just for me. I had received a message that I had to share. No matter how difficult it is or how hard it is to believe, the transformation back to my daily life was never ordinary. Physically, I was recovering quickly, but emotionally and spiritually, I was suffering from the weight of what I had experienced. How can I explain to people that I have come from such a different world? Can they understand me? I started with the people closest to me, my family, my closest friends. Some people were amazed to hear my visions, the words of Jesus, and the overwhelming love I felt. I opened my eyes wide and listened. The others seemed to be doubtful. I was not sure if what I was saying was true or just a product of trauma and vivid imagination. I thought of what Jesus said to me. Some people will doubt me, and some will laugh at me, but those who are willing to listen will understand and be prepared. I did not forget that the challenge was not just to share my experience. It was to actually live it out. Will I be able to go back to my daily life knowing what I know now? Every morning, I opened my eyes, remembered clearly, and asked myself, how can I share this message today? I began to record everything vividly. I wanted to record each word, each image, each emotion, and I began to pray more than before. It was not just for myself, but for the people I had to share it with. I prayed to God to give me the strength and wisdom to speak when the time came, and to use me as a tool for His purpose. As time went by, opportunities began to open up. Conversations that I would never have started naturally occurred. Friends and strangers began to open their hearts to me about their suffering, doubts, and fears. In those moments, I had the courage to share my story in small parts. I always engraved the words of Jesus in my heart. The message was, you will not suffer alone. My Spirit will lead you, and when the time comes, He will speak to you. There were various reactions, but beautiful things began to happen. Even the people I doubted stopped for a moment and began to watch. I felt that the seeds were being planted, and I realized that my role was not to give confidence to anyone, but to simply share what I saw and leave the rest to God. As my physical strength was restored, my determination was strengthened again. At church, I talked to small groups, drank coffee with my friends, and even started to talk to my medical colleagues who were curious about my recovery. Every time I shared my experience, I felt that the connection between the message and the people I was talking to was getting deeper. But it did not happen without a challenge. Sometimes I had questions about my mental state. Was it true? Was it real? At that moment, I closed my eyes and tried to remember the light and warmth I felt in the presence of Jesus, and the love that was filled with every fiber of my existence. This is real. I said to myself, this is your purpose. I was also teased. Some people immediately denied my story and treated it as a hallucination or a temporary experience. Others said that they were suspicious of my motivation and that I was trying to attract attention or do something sensational. Those moments were painful, but they also deepened my faith in God. Whenever I was doubted or criticized, I reiterated what Jesus said to me. Believe in my power, not your own. As time went by, I realized that my story was not just about a special event that I experienced. It was about my daily choices to actually survive the message I received. It was encouraging other people to turn their hearts to God, to focus on what is truly important, and to prepare for what is to come. This journey taught me that faith does not have all the answers, but that it is to trust those who know all the answers. It is to stand firm in the face of doubt and criticism, and to know that God's promise will never waver. Every morning, I wake up with a reason to live again. It is because I know that I am a part of something much bigger than myself. And every time I share this story, I pray that it will reach the hearts of those who need to hear it. As Jesus wanted, things are not easy, and there are still moments of doubt and fear, but I hold on to what He said. You are not alone. I am always with you.